Welcome to Questions and Actor Laurent Pitre. I almost forgot the title of my own podcast. Welcome. Welcome to this thing I've made that's somehow keep on going. Um, Today I have an amazing, wonderful, fantastic, magical guest. Who are you?
Watson.
Yes,
Like the
Watson
last name.
Rose.
Like the
Yes,
last name.
like the last name. That's cool. I love that. I tell me about that. There's a lot in a name, and I've had occasionally some guests like you have to have like a bit of like a follow up to saying their own name. Tell me about what is it what is in your name and how do you feel about it? Your name.
Like it. I mean, so it is my stage name. And there's
Mm,
always inevitably that moment where people hear, oh, Watson Rose. Wow, your parents must have been so cool. And don't get me wrong, my parents are very cool.
mhm.
But the reason I have a stage name is because the union that I joined, my name was so generic that it was already taken. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had to pick a stage name. Yeah, I've never been annoyed by being called my last name. I wasn't necessarily like an athlete growing up per se, but I did some sports, and so some people
Mm.
called me Watson, and it worked. And I like Sherlock Holmes, so I can
Yes.
be a nerd, and yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. I actually didn't know that, so that's really interesting. Tell me more about. Let's like really go in the time machine together and go all the way
Mhm.
back since you mentioned your parents in a bit of like where you started from. So let's go all the way back. Tell us what your parents did, and tell us like what like those first few years were, and maybe when did that spark in the creative zone start to ignite?
So growing up, like my mom worked as a secretary with a bunch of different companies. So when I was really little, she was working as a secretary for a construction business that my dad's best friend owned. And my dad has worked in pensions since I was quite young. And he
Mm.
still works in pensions. And my mom later worked as a secretary in as a bunch of like schools. So she was the secretary of my middle school for a bit, a couple different high schools. Yeah, but how I got the creative bug, in a nutshell, I was just kind of a lot as a kid, and I had a really
Mhm.
big imagination. So from the time I was very little, I was really into storytelling. I was the sort of kid that like you could give a Barbie and you could leave me for 8 to 14 hours and I would be very happy. And it wasn't like dressing the Barbie, it wasn't picking out the outfit. That was part of it. That came later though. It was the plot. What was Barbie's adventure today? What was she doing? Who was she interacting with? What moment in her life was she experiencing? It would drive my parents crazy every time I made my bed. It would take me like hours to make my bed because I had stuffed animals on it and I would have to tell stories with them. I would have to play with my stuffed animals. So
Wow.
from a pretty early age, I was very interested in telling stories, but it was always within a little bubble of myself. It wasn't necessarily
Hmm.
something I shared with other people all the time. Um, but yeah, my parents just kind of let me do that because I think that was a not particularly negative habit for a child to have in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, oh no, she's using her imagination. How awful. Someone call the police, right? It was fine. So they kind of let me do that and nurtured that part of me. And then I think when I became a teenager and actually wanted to get into acting, they were like, oh no, what have we done?
Oh, wow. Yes, because maybe they came from a bit more of the secure job path thing of like being in a system, having, your dad's in pensions, your
Hmm.
mom's worked as a secretary. So there's that kind of. And tell me, were you an only child or do you have siblings?
I'm the youngest of three.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay,
Hmm.
and so tell me a little bit about what that was like, because it sounds like a lot of the activities you enjoyed as a kid were solitary activities like storytelling, playing with toys. Totally can relate. And like having a
Hmm.
long form series, basically, ongoing that's affecting real life, right? Yeah. So tell me about that. What was it like with your older siblings? Were they also artistically inclined?
My sister and I had a lot of really similar hobbies, or extracurriculars, I should say. I think it was more, convenience than anything. Like, my sister went to dance lessons, so when I got to the age where I could go to dance lessons, I took dance lessons for, like, 3 years until I decided I liked skating more. My sister and I were in the same choir. My sister played basketball in middle school, so I played basketball in middle school. Like, I very much was the classic younger sister where I would get turned my curiosity tended to get sparked by what my siblings were doing, and the ball kinda rolled from there. Ironically, the one thing my sister did that I never really got into as a child was acting.
Wow.
My sister was in plays growing up, and I remember distinctly I auditioned for The Wizard of Oz because when I was little, I loved doing voices and impressions and stuff, and I would always do the, like, "Follow the yellow brick road," and all that, and my parents thought they were like, "For sure, we're gonna audition her to be a Munchkin. She can do the show, her sister can do the show. It'll be great." And I got to the audition and I was like, "This is dumb. I don't do this in front of people. This is for you guys.
Mm,
Like, why do you think I wanna do this?" And, they were so confused because they were like, "We thought this would be perfect." But luckily, like, my parents never tried to force me into anything I didn't want to do. They were always very good about letting us make our own choices with what we started when we wanted to stop it. They gave us a lot of space and freedom within that. I don't really think my parents tried to push me towards anything. They more just, like, paid attention to the areas that I seemed to be thriving.
mm,
Um, and I think they've always been pretty open-minded. I don't think they ever expected to have a child that wanted to be an actor, but I
mm,
don't necessarily think they're, like, mad about it, you know?
mhm, mhm.
My dad loves comedy. Like, he loved growing up, I watched so much Monty Python. I'd seen everything Mel Brooks had done by the time I was, like, 8. He loves music, was really into the Beatles. My mom likes music too, but different styles. So, like, there was always a lot of art happening in our household, even if it wasn't from a career standpoint or it was more just felt like a part of childhood. Like, we would do crafts, every year for Christmas, we would make, like, decorations as crafts, and for birthday
Wow.
parties, we would have, like, a craft party and stuff. So there
Mm,
was just a lot of creation happening in a way that felt spontaneous and just normal for the 90s.
mhm,
Um, both of my siblings, like, I wouldn't necessarily say my brother's the most artistic person, but he is when it comes to cooking. Because again, that was
mm,
something that we did a lot of when we were little. We couldn't necessarily afford to eat out all the time. So we would cook, we would help my mom in the kitchen. My brother has a real innate curiosity for cooking. My
mm,
sister loves the art of calligraphy and she likes paper and doing different paper crafts. So we've all kind of got our own little niches that we've fallen into artistically. Um,
mm.
that we were really allowed to explore when we were kids. Mine just happened to be forcing people to watch me do things.
Wow, that's so cool. So tell me, when did it sort of shift for you from being like, oh, this is like not what I'm comfortable doing. This isn't the intention with my creative, acting ability, to then considering it as a potential path. Did that come later in high school, after? Where was that sort of?
It was first sparked in high school, very much accidentally.
Mm,
Um, I had not had the best experience in middle school. Like, I got fine grades and stuff, but I didn't have a super solid friend group. I had some issues with bullying, not like mostly ostracization and mostly just like being a weird kid who did a
mm-hmm.
lot of impressions and voices and was probably pretty annoying for people. Like, fair. Don't bully people. It's not cool, but
Yeah,
like at the
not
same time,
cool.
like I kind of get it. You know, bullying's so bad. Don't do it. It
It's
ruins
bad.
people.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I went to high school, literally the first friend I made, she went to like an improv group at a local community theater and she invited
Mm,
me to go with her. And I was like, okay, I can either spend the next 4 years of my life with no friends or I can do this thing that's really outside my comfort zone. That theater, the Georgetown Little Theater, it became my lifeline through high school. It was my home away from home. If I wasn't at my home or at my high school, I was at Georgetown Little Theater. I quit figure skating because it was taking away my time from rehearsals for shows. And it went beyond just performing on the stage. Like, I just had such a deep curiosity about how stories could be told on a way that brought an audience in. So I loved helping to build the sets. I loved learning how to hang the lights. Anytime we had a volunteer day for like move into the theater, I was always the first person to sign up for any job. And like, I loved spending an entire weekend at the theater from like
Mm.
8 a.m. till 8 p.m. the whole time. Like, we went to New Year's parties at the theater. I don't know. I loved that place. I really felt like, yeah, it was my home. But then I was always a very concentrated English student. So when I got in, I love writing. When I got to apply for universities, I wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to go. I knew I just wanted it to involve storytelling. And in the theater side of things, I, at that point, was very, very into acting still, but I was also interested in continuing to explore just like theater making as a craft
Mm.
because there was a lot I mean I still have, but at the time in particular, I was going through a lot of very, very intense imposter syndrome,
Mm.
self-doubt, self-consciousness, and while I felt like I was thriving on stage, I could kind of lose myself in a performance. What came after felt very overwhelming, um,
Mm.
because I would get very wrapped up in, "Was I good? Was that embarrassing? Is this actually something that I can do? Are people lying to me? If someone says, 'Wow, you were great,' like, are they being authentic?" And I think a lot of that stemmed back to not really being able to trust friends and whatnot. So I went
Mm.
into university kind of, like, not 100% certain what I wanted to do. Um, I went out to Alberta, I started in a general drama program, and I, like, threw myself into acting, but more than that, I threw myself into, like, festivals. I started
Mm.
running the Newarks Festival. We did a Cahoots Cabaret where people could just, like, come and perform on a stage. I got very involved in, like, the administrative side of theater, and,
Mm.
I started directing more because, in university, everyone wanted to act in the shows. No one wanted to write the show. No one wanted to direct. No one wanted to do costume. So I would just fill in the gaps wherever they were needed because I wanted to put on a show.
Mm.
And it wasn't until my fourth year that one of my professors was kind of like, look, you're an actor and I get what you're doing and I appreciate what you're doing, but you're allowed to be an actor.
Mm.
And it there are a couple very pivotal moments in my life that I'm able to reflect on and note that in that moment, I really did need someone's permission, and I was too afraid to ask for it, but I've been very lucky in that I've had a couple people in my life that have seen that I needed that permission, but wasn't able at the time to put myself out there to ask for it and gave me the permission anyway, but that was kind of the first time that I'd had someone go, "You want to do this, you're good at this, clearly you're passionate about this, that's okay."
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, that, like, occasionally you can be in the spotlight too. Yeah, like, you give light
Yeah.
to others that you can sort of give yourself the moment sometimes to be the actor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think even above that, you don't have to think you're the greatest to
Mhm.
be an actor. You don't have to be the most confident person in the world all the time. It's like you are coming to this enough.
Mm. Yeah, well said. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, feeling like enough. Yeah, absolutely. That's really beautiful that was a pivotal moment to start that journey of like, okay, now so tell me about what that fourth year was like and then upon graduation from that program, did this lesson take time to apply itself or was there like an immediate shift that really changed things for you in the long run?
There was an immediate shift that happened in my master's program for sure.
Mhm.
But I essentially, when I graduated, I now had this newfound permission to accept the fact that I wanted to act. And like that was really my passion. I still love writing and I still love directing, but that's very much how I thrive storytelling, I find. But I knew like my goal in this industry is I've always wanted to push myself as hard as I can. Like I want to see how far I can go and how great I can be and how immersed I can become in these stories. I want to experiment with different methods. Like that's always very much been inherently within me of whatever part of the industry I'm in. I want to continue to push myself and I want to continue to be curious about the opportunity out there. So when I graduated, I knew that for me to really make it in the industry in a way that I wanted to, I wasn't ready to go into the industry. I didn't
Mm,
personally feel that I had the skills that I knew I needed. I didn't think that I had yet uncovered the methodology of acting that would allow me to really flex my muscles in the way that I knew I could. Um, and so I saved up. I took a year off acting. I worked a like regular person job. I was a university recruiter for the University of Alberta, which I actually loved doing when I wasn't in the office. I had great coworkers, but like I liked being on the road. I liked talking to people. I didn't like being in the office. Um, and then after a year of that, I had gone into my master's program. So I moved to the UK. And in that program, one of my teachers, my movement teacher, which is very important because that it ended up was the key for me. I had done some clown work before. I'd worked with Mike Kennard of Mump and Smoot. I'd worked with a couple different teachers on physical movement, but it wasn't until my master's degree when I really started to understand what character body could do, layered on top of character voice and breath work and all of that. So I think that physical language was really important for me to continue to explore. And one of my movement teachers straight up was like, "Oh, I can tell like you're looking for validation right now. And like, am I good enough? And I'm telling you right now, like, if that's your worry, you're never going to be good at this. Like, clearly
mm,
you are good at this, but if you want to be great at this, you cannot care if you're doing a good job. Like, that can't be a
mm,
question. Because if that's a question in your mind, you're not connecting to the work."
mhm,
I mean, that wasn't the way he phrased it, but the way he phrased it was enough that I like left that meeting being like, "Oh my god, maybe I should go home. Like, I don't know. Can I do this? Can I overcome that?" And I was in like a kind of weird position because I was one of the younger people in my master's program. My master's program was advertised as being for professional actors. And there were some feelings from some people in the class about the fact that a couple of us had come straight out of our undergrad. Most of the people in my class were very cool with it. Most of them, like, we had someone in our class who was mid 30s when he started. I was 22, and he straight up was like, "Amazing that you're here. Awesome. Like, we're all
mm,
just here to get better." There were a couple people, though, that were like, "Who do these babies think they are? This program is for professional actors." So I kind of came into the program
mm,
being like, "No, this is now my time to prove to people that I am an actor. I've got permission now. Now let me
mm,
convince you." And one teacher was like, "No, no one cares.
mhm,
Like it's you why are you trying to prove something no one's asking you to? And if they are,
mm,
screw them."
mhm. Wow, and it's cool that it came from a movement teacher. It's almost like it was manifesting it physically, right? Like
Mhm.
you have this underlying question or doubt or fear. It's going to show itself in some way in your work. So it's profound that that was the key that unlocked that for you too. So
Mhm.
that gave you from the enough to stop trying to prove again deeper, like stop trying to prove it because it's showing up in your body. So what were then the techniques? Again, you went to LAMDA, right? This is
Mhm.
the university. Tell me a little about, maybe just to rewind a bit and then hit play. Tell us how you got into it, how you found out about LAMDA, and then what were like the main sort of tools that allowed you to apply that lesson of, you know, how do I be within my body and cement that feeling of enoughness? So, like, again, sorry to rewind, but I really want to know those details.
No, that's okay. Okay, so I'll start with how I found out about Lambda because I think this is really funny and this is part of my I think it's funny. It may not
Yeah.
actually be funny. But so when the show Sherlock came out, again, I love Sherlock Holmes. That is not why my stage name is Watson. It is my actual last name. But my dad's name is John Watson, so that had always been a fun like ah, ha ha ha. And like
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved the Sherlock Holmes stories growing up. When Sherlock came out, obviously my family watched it because it was British and it was Sherlock Holmes, and we love those two things. And the second I started watching it, I was so obsessed with the quality of the writing and the quality of the performances. And I like keep in mind, I think I was like 12 when this show came out. Benedict Cumberbatch in particular, the mannerisms, the micro expressions, the fact that you could read every single thing in his face when he wanted you to be able to, but there were moments where he was so good at masking things, but there would be a
Mm-hmm.
micro tell.
Mm-hmm.
I became so obsessed with him as an actor. And I think it's because like that character hit all the right things for me. Like he was misunderstood, he was awkward, he was too much, he was loud, he was the annoying one. And he was so flawed.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that character and I loved the way that he performed it and I loved the writing, particularly of season 1 and 2. I'm so sorry. But like I
Yeah, those OG ones are the best. Yeah.
so
They're
good.
great.
So I just fell down the rabbit hole of worship, like God worshiping Benedict Cumberbatch. And it wasn't a celebrity crush. I was just like, this man is so good. I want to be him. And so I looked up and he had gone to LAMDA and he credited that with like a lot of his progress as an actor and foundational knowledge, which while I was at LAMDA, he actually became president of the school.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So I had known about LAMDA since I had been in my preteens and it kind of always just
Wow.
floated there of like, yeah, if I wanted to go to acting school, like maybe I could go to England. And when I was 18, I auditioned at Juilliard and I was for sure not ready to go to Juilliard. Um, like I'm so glad I did not get in.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
yeah.
way I would still be an actor. I think if I had at that point in my life, I was 17. I don't think I
Mm,
would like I wasn't confident enough as an actor to enter into acting school at that time.
yeah.
I think it would have broken me.
You didn't have the I am enough moment yet, right?
No, not
At that
yet. This had
time.
not
So
happened.
yeah, it would have
So
been hard
that
to
would have
do
been
that in
bad.
New York. Yeah, it would have been hard.
Yeah, big time. And especially like what I love about Juilliard is they're straight up like, yo, going here is not going to guarantee you a career. So like come here, you're going to be a better actor, but like we can't guarantee you anything. And I like that honesty. But I had known of LAMDA and as I kind of got towards the end of my university program, I knew I wanted to keep studying. I had originally gone to the University of Alberta because at the time it had the only voice pedagogy master's program in North America, specifically for theater. And I
Mm,
thought that that might be something I wanted to do because I loved accents, I loved voices, I studied linguistics in university. Like I loved everything about that. So I was kind of leaning towards doing a master's anyway. And then when I found that LAMDA had 2 after degree programs, I figured why not give it a shot? Like I wanted a bit of a change anyway. I have a habit of moving a lot and just trying things. So had been to England before. I had lived in Italy briefly while I like studied over there for a little bit. And I had spent a week in London and just absolutely loved it. I love the accessibility of theater. So I kind of figured, you know what? If I save up for it, if I can afford it, what a fun adventure. Like, why not? I'll go to acting school in England. I flew to San Francisco for my audition because LAMDA only auditions in Toronto in Canada, or at least I don't know if they still do, but when they were doing international auditions, the only place in Canada they did was Toronto. And at the time, it was cheaper for me to fly Canadian Airlines. It was cheaper for me to fly to San Francisco and stay there
yeah.
for a week than it was for me to fly to Toronto and stay with family for a week.
Wow, that's
Canadian
crazy.
Airlines. So
Yep.
I flew to San Francisco. I landed. I got bronchitis the day I landed. So I
Oh my
had
god.
bronchitis for my audition. And I think because of that, that little part of me that was like, I need to prove, kind of went to sleep because I couldn't prove, I had no voice.
Mm,
So I was kind of like, you know what? I have faced so many rejections in this industry already. The worst thing that could happen is I have a great time in San Francisco and I don't get into this school.
mm,
So I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna just like do these pieces. And I loved the contemporary piece I'd chosen. I had mashed together a piece from Hannah Moskovich's This Is War. And
wow.
I think the maximum we had was like 2 minutes. And I think like because of the amount of pauses I took and like the breath work I did in that, I think my monologue was like 5 minutes long.
Yeah,
When
you
I
were in
got
it.
in, yeah, I found out 2 weeks later when I got in, like the head of the acting program. And I don't say this to brag. I say this because I think this is important. He told me that it was the best contemporary audition he'd seen in 15 years. And I think the only reason that happened is because there was no result. The result was gone. So I just did it and told the story.
Mm.
And then he straight up was like, your Shakespeare needed work. So,
Yeah,
that like,
yeah. Yin and yang, yeah.
yeah, but I was offered a spot in the 2-year program. I had initially auditioned for the 1-year master's because that was what I could afford. And I had done my research. I knew that it was the only master's program that LAMDA offered at the time. The other program was a diploma. So there was no funding I could get from the Canadian government to help me with that. And I only wanted to take 1 year off the industry, so I couldn't afford the 2-year program. So they offered me a spot in the 2-year, which was, it involved a larger showcase in the UK, and it had units for film as well as more focus on contemporary theater. But I could only afford the 1-year master's, so they put me in the 1-year master's instead, which was a focus on classical theater.
Wow, okay, cool, interesting.
Which was
'Cause
great though,
wow.
because again, I was obsessed with Benedict Cumberbatch, and he was one of the people that said, if you can do Shakespeare really well, then you can do any acting. And I was like, well, if Benedict Cumberbatch said it. I was, at the time, I believe, what one might call a Cumberbitch.
I love that,
So
that's a good one, yeah, wow.
yeah, when I actually met him later, he was like, he's so nice and so normal. And I was like,
Yes,
I was so weirdly obsessed with you when I was younger. I'm so sorry.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was then, your experience while you were there, like, to work on the classics? What were, like, the classes that you took? What was, like, that moment the moments before that, movement realization and the moments after while you were there for just 1 year? You must have had a lot of life in 1 year, especially meeting Benedict there too. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's an intensive program. So it's 4 semesters back to back, and it's 6 days a week. You're at school for, 10 plus hours most days. Lamb's just structured really well though, where like you get certain days that are shorter across the board for everyone in the school. Like Wednesdays you end at 3 p.m. so that you have the entire evening to work on projects, to rehearse things. Fridays, you finish at 6 p.m. so that you can go see shows if there are shows on at the school. We have a tradition, like everyone at LAMDA goes out to the Weatherspoons and Hammersmith Station. It was a really, really great experience and environment. And I think because it was a school that was specifically an arts school, like LAMDA at the time, it wasn't accredited as its own university. It was accredited through the University of Kent.
Okay.
Um, and so, but because of that, like I had never been to a school before where everyone was an arts student and everyone was within one department. And
Mm,
because of that, like there wasn't the same kind of competitiveness or animosity between the programs that I had kind of felt having come from like a general program at a school that had BFA programs as well.
mhm,
Um, it felt a little bit more harmonious, and
mm,
I at least had a very wonderful like social circle at LAMDA of people from different programs, which was wonderful. But it's really divided into like 3 different sections in terms of like the program I was in. We had acting classes, voice classes, movement classes. Um, Movement classes, we had like pure movement. We had Laban technique classes. We had Laban classes as well for our acting classes. There were different clown classes. We studied with 2 different clown teachers. Um, yeah, there was a lot of basically like, LAMDA really helped me just build my actor's tool belt. Um,
mhm,
the classical theater, we studied 4 main sections. So we did Renaissance. What did we do? We did French classical, Spanish Golden Age, Shakespearean, and I don't remember what the other one was. Whoopsie. But yeah, we did like a bunch of different eras and kind of like what like European cultural influences of theater. We also did some
mm,
contemporary theater in there. Like we had a couple classes where we were doing contemporary monologues, working on that. Lots of master classes with different professors. We had a lot of guest lecturers. Lambda's very big on stage combat. The head of the
mm,
drama department, he was the master of arms at the Globe Theater for a while, so he loved stage combat. That was one of
wow,
our most consistent classes. We did our combat exams. If you scored high enough, you got to partake in fight night, which was like a school wide, everyone that got distinction on their like their fight exams, got to do a specialization in a certain weapon. And you
Cool.
had a big showcase night, so that was really awesome. Which I love stage combat, so that was something I kind of also why LAMDA appealed to me because of that focus.
Mm.
And so I got to do fight night, which was really fun. Um, but the class with the realization for movement, that was one of my pure movement classes. And my teacher, Vince, he was so cool. I learned so much from Vince. And mostly, I would say, I think the most important thing that I learned at LAMDA, which isn't something anyone directly taught me, it was a discovery I had on my own from watching my classmates who were so inspiring to me, and like several of whom had come from careers like working off Broadway and working on Broadway, and some of whom had specializations in movement and all of that. I realized that those feelings, that worry of looking silly, was coming from the fact that I wasn't allowing myself to fully commit. And because I was second guessing certain things and I was holding myself back. And the realization that I had, we were doing an exercise called the five rhythms. And the five rhythms is very intense, it can be very emotional, but essentially in a group, working solo, though, you experience a soundscape of five very distinctive rhythms. And all you do is
Mm.
you move intuitively to those rhythms and see what happens. And it's a
Mm.
very drawn out process. I don't know how long the actual five rhythms is, but the version that we did was 2 hours. It's 2 hours
Whoa.
of nonstop movement. And each
Wow.
kind of rhythm is its own like chapter. So you go through the first rhythm as a whole and then you move on to the next one. And it is physically exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting. When it ends, like everyone's on the ground, like sobbing because
Wow.
you've gone through so much. And it was that exercise that he told me. He was like, look, you're a wonderful actor, but while you were doing that exercise, like I had to stop counting the number of times that you checked in with me because I
Wow.
would see you looking at me going, am I doing this right? And he was like, it's a solo exercise. Like you got into it eventually, but from the beginning, there was that need for a validation for me to tell you you're doing good or you're doing the right thing. And he was kind of like, he basically told me, go home over the winter break because this was in my first semester. Like this was
Mhm.
just started at Lambda, 22,
Wow.
hadn't even had my 23rd birthday yet. And he was like, I need you to go home over the winter break and think about if you actually want to be an actor. Because if you can't get over this, like this career is going to be untenable for you.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
needed that. I needed someone to tell me
Yeah,
that. And
totally.
that's why I left that meeting being like, "Oh my god, I'm okay." Especially because, like, my voice and my, acting feedback sessions, because this was the end of the semester, they'd gone so well. Like, "Oh my god, I love my voice one," and I was like, "I'm the greatest actor who's ever co—" not really, but, I was
Mhm.
on top of the world, and then someone was like, I don't know, you seem pretty self-conscious."
Wow.
So, yeah, that was, and I think it was the realization that, like, I wouldn't be able to tell stories in the way I wanted to if I wasn't able to get out of my own head. But it was also the realization that, like, what a wasted opportunity. How many other times in your life do you get to do the five rhythms? And I kind of wasted it by checking in to be like, am I doing okay? Instead of actually just allowing myself to commit to what the exercise was. So I kind of beat myself up about that for a little bit, and I think that was honestly a kind of healthy motivator for me of like, you just moved across the world. You took a year off acting. You could have gone into the career. You could have gone into the field. You could have auditioned for things. You took a year off to save for your master's degree. And now you're going to
Mhm.
what? Throw away that money because you're scared of looking silly when no one's watching you? And I think that was even why like, when I was little, there would be certain moments where I would share my stories with people, but I think that's a lot of why I kept it so close is because I was going through the experience of being too much and being a weird kid, and so it felt
Mm.
like it was something for me, and it was kind of that moment at the school where they were like, "If you're gonna do this, you have to realize, like, it kinda still has to be for you."
Mhm. Wow. That's profound. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. That yeah, so then thank you for taking me through that because yeah, it gives me a lot of insights into who you are now and the person that you were before that and how much those lessons impacted you probably not only as an actor but as a person. So I'm curious then, once you graduated, what was that moment like? What were your questions that you were asking yourself? What were the decisions you ended up making in that pivotal kind of moment after LAMDA?
I will admit, like, when I graduated from LAMDA, I was in a really good headspace because I was really proud of myself, but I was also in a little bit of a negative headspace because, and this isn't the fault of LAMDA, but I mean, it like kind of is, I guess, but when you graduate from their programs, you're offered certain showcase opportunities. And the program that I was in was designed for students coming from North America to specifically from the States to come to the UK, study classical theater, and go back to the States. So almost everyone in my program was
Oh.
American.
Oh,
I
wow.
was one of two, or I guess technically by citizenship, four Canadians in the program, but I was one of two people that had actually come from Canada to do the program.
Mhm.
And so the students in the 2-year program got to do like a big showcase in the UK. They got to like, agents would come see multiple shows that they were in. They got to do a showcase on like different stages across London for people to come to where they got to perform scenes specifically for agents to come see them. The BF or the BA program had the same thing. The 1-year program, we had an end of year show that we could open up to people, but because most people were going back home, there was a audition tour for the American students where they got to do an agent showcase in LA and in New York. And the year that I graduated, the students sprung a little extra to do one in Atlanta because that's when
Whoa.
production studios were starting to open in Atlanta.
Wow.
And the Canadian students were not allowed to be involved because
What?
because it's
Legally,
your
you
entry.
wouldn't yeah, you'd be going in as, like, an O1 or, like, you'd need a kinda
Exactly.
work visa to
Yeah.
even be considered by agents because it's, like, legally like, you're not just going as a
Mhm.
tourist, you're not going
Exactly.
as a student, you'd be going in as a working or a
Mhm.
professional seeking work
Exactly.
before the visa.
So
Oh my gosh.
and for Canadians, we got to do, what was it? Theater Ontario, is that what it was called?
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Theater
and there
Ontario,
were
yeah.
there were, like, 4 of us from LAMDA, and
Whoa,
with
wow.
Theater Ontario, certain agents come to see certain people from certain schools, and then they leave once
Uh-huh,
those schools are done. So it kind of
right.
like I did very much again, I was 20. I'll give myself the grace of saying, like, I was 23. I was not at full emotional maturity at the time, but, like, I was a little bitter about that.
For sure,
Especially
yeah,
with the
for sure.
understanding that if I had been able to afford to do the 2-year program, I could have gotten that UK showcase.
Yeah, and at least maybe work in the UK because you didn't have
Exactly.
access to the UK either? It was just Theater Ontario was your
So
showcase?
I did, yes, for the program I was in, because it
Okay.
was divided, like, they would pair the 2-year program and the BA students, their last 2 shows of the year, the classes would, like, cross-pollinate where they would get
Oh, okay.
cross-cast in each other's shows. So
Okay.
they did the showcase together, so they paired them.
Ah,
There was
okay.
no opportunity for the people in the MA program to join in with that. Um,
Oh,
so it was kind of Theater Ontario or the US showcase, and that was it. I did end up
wow.
staying in London for another year because I wanted to see if it would be
Wow.
viable for me to have a career there. I wanted to see what the opportunities would be like, and because as a Canadian, there are certain visas if you're under 30 that you can fairly easily get to, like, stay in the UK and work there briefly. So, I got the visa to stay and decided at a certain point, like, I should really go back to Canada because it's it was getting to the point where it was either I was gonna have to apply for a visa that was significantly harder to get, more expensive to get, etcetera. Um, and it's very expensive to live in London. I mean, theater is very
Yep.
accessible, but it is very expensive. So I
Mhm.
kind of figured at that point, like, I should probably come back to Canada. I also wasn't in the greatest mental health space because everyone from my class had left. And while there was a great community at LAMDA, like, I had graduated, so there was a bit of imposter syndrome. Um, And I think if more of the people from my class had been able to stay, it probably would have been a little bit easier.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm a bit of an introvert in that sense, so I struggled after I graduated for sure. Um, so I stayed another year and then I came back to Canada, and then the pandemic started, like, right when I came back. So
No way. Oh my
yeah.
god. My god.
Yeah, so it was in the end, like,
Right after you came back from London, you're like where did you move? Where did you decide to, like,
um
begin your Canadian acting career journey there?
So I wanted to come to Toronto because I knew that, like, in the grand scheme of things, I knew that there were a lot of, like, network shows that filmed out in BC, and that was great, but it was very important to me that I move somewhere that had a very thriving theater scene.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to come to Toronto for the opportunity in theater and in film, and I moved to Milton briefly with my family. My plan was, like, get see if I can get an agent in Toronto, start getting some auditions, find a job, save up some money, and then move into the city so I don't just, like, I had no savings left at that point because I just finished my master's, but, like, be able to afford to move into
Yeah.
Toronto before I move in, and then the pandemic started, so I ended up staying with my parents for, like, 2 years, and then I moved into the city, and here we are.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Wow. Wow, what a journey. Okay, well, so yeah, let's talk about now those 2 years, like, or like, because I know I saw like on your IMDb, like you started getting film roles like in 2019 and stuff like that. Tell me about like, because you talked a lot about your work and the tools that you got from like LAMDA, mostly theater based. Tell me about like, because you wanted to find a balance between theater and film. So when you return and in this weird time of connection, disconnection, wild chaos, everyone thinking it's the end of the world, what did you do during that time? What tools did you maybe really hold on to, hone, and let go of? And tell me about then in the following years, what were the big sort of moments for you where you're like, okay, yeah, this Lambda was a good choice. This career of being an actor was a good choice. Tell me what those moments were for you during that time.
So, in that 2 years, I did a lot of reading. I read a lot.
Mm,
I took some online acting classes that I think were beneficial in the sense that when I moved to Toronto, I had no community, and so it helped me start to, like, meet people and build some community, but ultimately, the Zoom classes were hard for me because it wasn't the connection that I was craving. Having come from, a time period in my life where I was feeling like I was really struggling to connect with people, and then all of a
mm-hmm.
sudden being required to connect with people exclusively from online, like,
Yeah.
it wasn't. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to take the online acting classes, but it kind of felt like it was crushing my soul a bit, because I was just
Mm,
really needing to, like, connect with people on a one-to-one
yeah.
basis. But I went on a lot of adventures with my parents in that time, which was really nice. It was a good opportunity for me to kind of, like, reconnect with my parents as an adult because I had just moved to the UK for a couple
Yeah.
years, and, so it was nice to do that. My mom and I would go on, like, little adventures every week when we could. Like, we would go to Niagara a lot and walk around vineyards and stuff and, like,
Nice.
occasionally do a tasting masked and all that, and, I immersed myself in buying plants and doing embroidery and, like, writing stuff. I
Uh-huh.
practiced a lot of monologues. It
Mm,
did become really monotonous. I honestly, like, I probably didn't do as much as I could have in terms of, like, stretching myself as an actor, but I found a comfortable rhythm of, like, keeping it alive so it didn't feel hopeless. And,
mm-hmm.
even during the pandemic, like, initially early 2020 was really rough, or mid 2020, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, was really rough. But then when auditions started up again, like, I was getting a really good number of auditions. I wasn't really auditioning for things I wanted to be auditioning for, but I was very grateful for the opportunity. And obviously, you have to start out somewhere. And it was
Mm-hmm.
great for me to even just be able to kind of self-explore the medium of film, in a very low stakes way because I had just gotten over this hump of self-doubt and imposter syndrome when it came to stage where art is
Uh-huh.
ephemeral. You leave the
Uh-huh.
theater and that was it. That was the experience, right? Film's different. And all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, all the things that, like, make me wanna crawl out of my skin and into a deep dark hole in the ground, now I have to watch them.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it's taken me a couple years to, be okay with being on camera. There's always a fun moment where they'll
Mm.
call cut and I'm like, "Okay, oh shit, camera." Like,
Mhm.
I forget it's
Mm.
there, and then I kinda come to and I'm like, "No, no, I don't like that thing."
Mm.
So I'm still working through that a bit, but it's become a
Mm.
lot not easier, but it's become a almost exciting challenge now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something for me to dig my teeth into, and even, like, in the preparation process, for film and TV, like, the work isn't more nuanced, but the way that I process the work is more nuanced because I know that detail will read on a greater scale. So, rather like a lot of the exercises that I do for theater tend to be very overarching energy because that's what will read on stage. And the process that I have for film tends to be a little bit more, we find the external energy, but then we hone in on the internal energy and the contrast of the two because I know that the internal energy is gonna read more on camera as well.
Mhm.
So it's, like, just giving me fun things to play with and new things to consider, and every time I do a project, I learn something new. Um,
Mm.
I very much think that acting is acting, but, like, the medium is different, obviously, and the tools you have at your disposal are different, so it's just a matter of having those tools ready to go and knowing which ones to use at which point. So it's,
Mm.
yeah, there was again a little bit where I was a little resentful of the lack of theater opportunities I was getting and the concentration of what felt like, and I mean kind of what is like very small utility side parts for things, but also, you should pay your dues. And in the same way that when I graduated from my undergrad, I wasn't, or when I graduated from high school, I wasn't ready to go to Juilliard. I wouldn't have done the
Mhm.
work that I knew I would be able to do. Kind of the same thing. I think if I had booked the roles that I wanted in film straight out of my master's program, I think it would have started to kill it for me because I wasn't at a place where I was feeling ready as an artist to embrace that challenge in the way it needed to be embraced, which was from like a not ego place,
Mm.
if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell me also, like, so when you moved back to Toronto, you started getting your momentum back, and you, like you said, you face those challenges that now you're in a new city, so you have to pay your dues, go to classes, make connections. That's kind of when we met. I can't
Mhm.
actually pinpoint, but it was in a workshop, right? That's I think it's
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, I was in a workshop or class or something. Um, or maybe one of those, like, script reading things. There were a bunch of those script reading
Yeah,
groups in the
yeah, yeah,
pandemic.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
we had a
So
mutual friend, so then yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Nick Bright. Shout
Yeah.
out Nick
Nick
Bright.
Bright!
But yeah, exactly. So tell me about like how did you navigate that like building your community, and like you said, like it was harder because it was like a time of like a theater is gonna die or is it gonna
Mhm.
resurge, and so did you find yourself getting into the theater world in a creative way, and then in terms of film, what were the like, main things that you started practicing or using as tools to get more comfortable within playing on the framing or the stage that's much more small that kind of zooms in, and like you said, like the internal becomes more important in a magnified way kind of thing.
Yeah, so, I think to answer the first part of that, the creating community is still, I think, a little bit difficult. I, like, kind of baby stepped a little bit towards theater, but because the first couple years I was in the city, theater really wasn't happening in the theater, or theater was happening, but it was the theater that had already been programmed to happen a couple years before. So
All
there
right.
weren't really opportunities for people to even, like, become enmeshed in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I didn't try as hard as I could have because also at the time I was like, well, I don't really know anything about film in the sense of like, obviously I appreciate, like, I love watching movies and I was very analytical about that. But in terms of approaching film as a like artist, I wasn't really there yet. So I wanted to focus my energy in that because also I moved into the city of Toronto shortly after my 25th birthday, and every single agent I met with was like, "Well, if as a woman by the time you hit 30, if you haven't got any film or TV experience, it's not going to happen for you." Straight up,
Oh my
every single
god,
agent I met with told me
that's
that.
insane.
Yeah, so I was like, "Well, I guess I better focus in on film and TV because otherwise, like, theater's not
Wow.
happening right now. I'm not going to be able to be an actor if I don't bite that bullet, I guess."
Wow.
So I started focusing in on film and TV more. In terms of building my community, I always try to like focus my community around people that inspire me, but also I have no patience for people who lead with ego. I've dealt with
Mm.
so many of them in my life, and like, to be honest, the experience of going to the UK there was so little of that from my peers. I have no patience for it. I have no patience for competition in classrooms. I don't personally like competition in the industry in general. I think that
Mm,
comparison is not only the thief of joy, but I think it's also the thief of artistry. Because I think
yeah.
oftentimes in competition, you stop serving story and you start serving risk in a way that is meant to distract more than
Wow.
anything.
Mhm.
So I personally don't mess with people that I feel like are trying to test me at this point. I also fell into like a couple not great situations early off here because, when you're in a
Mm,
new city and people give you a certain type of validation, it's really easy to like just fall into certain patterns with people. But I try
mm,
to be pretty discerning about who I give my time to, but realistically, it's mostly like I try to spend my time with people that inspire me to be a better artist, a better person, inspire me with their art,
mm,
and just inspire me to continue being curious about the world.
mm. That's well said. I think that that's great advice for anybody, like whether they be an
Yeah.
actor or an artist. Like that's like surround yourself with, yeah, the energy that you want to reflect into the world too, right? Things like
Mhm.
that. That's beautiful. So tell me about the recent years of 2024 and 2025. You started one of your major milestones that I've seen you do is this amazing TV series that's been really popular called The Way Home, and I'm sure that must have been quite a moment for you. Getting a series regular TV series role is like an actor's dream, right? And it must have
Yeah.
felt validating to, like you said. So tell us a bit about the process of getting that audition, how it came into your life. I find it kind of funny. I think one of your cat's name is like similar to your character's name
Yeah,
too.
he's named after her. I adopted my cats from
Oh,
set, so
oh,
yeah.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, so tell me about
Yeah.
that of Susanna Augustine. How was that
Yeah.
experience for you? Like getting the audition. How did it
Mhm.
feel? And then yeah, we'll go from there.
So 2023 was when I booked that role, was in September
Okay. Right.
2023.
Makes sense.
2023 was, I think, like, the hardest year I had had in the industry.
Wow.
Not like I was honestly, I was really lucky in 2020, 2021, and 2022. I wasn't booking like crazy, but I was making a little bit of money, I was getting some credits, I was kind of like I was okay with the growth that we were seeing. I was seeing certain casting directors calling me in more and more, and then 2023 started off so strong. I was getting put on hold left, right, and center. I was getting avail checks out the wazoo. Like, that year, I booked standby on, I think, like 18 commercials.
Whoa.
Didn't book any of them, but I booked standby on them. And
That
there was a
yeah.
point through the year where, first of all, I wasn't really getting any feedback, but everyone was telling me, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing
Mhm.
what you're doing. And by September that year, I hadn't booked anything since I think like July the previous year. But
Yeah.
I hadn't been able to make any life plans. I was canceling trips. Like I was canceling everything in my life because I was always on hold or always had an avail check.
Wow.
And my life was centering around jobs that didn't exist
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And then the strike started. And then I was like, okay, my mental health has never been worse. I'm not getting the opportunities I want to be getting. I'm getting put on hold nonstop. Like, I can't remember the last time I actually had an experience that August. Like, I was so depressed. One of my best friends in the city, like, took
Hmm.
me to her family home in Connecticut because she was like, we need to get out of the city.
Wow.
This isn't good. And I kind of, a week before I got the audition for this, I had auditioned for something else that I really wanted. And it wasn't a big role, but I got put on hold for it. And I don't think we ever heard that I got released from the hold. And I had like a bit of a breakdown that week too. I was like working at a summer camp and I found out that there had been a mistake in our contract and we actually weren't getting paid as much as we were supposed to be getting paid. And I was like,
Ugh.
I can't do this. Like,
Uh-huh.
financial stress. I mean, that's the thing,
Mhm.
right? I
Very
think it's
real.
easy to think that people just wanna get paid for jobs as an actor, but I think people don't understand the amount of time actors devote towards work that we don't get paid for. And my social life was dying. My entire life was devoted to auditioning, and I just wasn't booking anything. But I was getting
Mm,
so close, and no one would give me a real reason why. So I told all my friends, I told everyone in my life, I was like, look, I cannot continue to live like this. I still love this industry, but like I am literally losing hair. I'm losing sleep over financial stress, over like barely being able to make ends meet. I have no savings. Like this isn't tenable. This isn't the life I want to live. I understand this idea of like a starving artist, but like we're getting into scary territory now. And so I told everyone that if I hadn't booked something by my birthday that year, which was December 6th, that I was going to take a break. Because I also think, like, leaving the industry doesn't have to mean forever.
no, exactly.
Acting, you have the tools, you can rehone those tools at any time in life. You don't have to leave forever. I also think I've said this so many times, but we do a great disservice to people in the industry in that we are led to believe that the worst possible thing you could do is leave the industry because it means you gave up on yourself. And I don't think that's a fair assertion to make about anyone. Everyone has their own reasons for leaving, for taking time off. And I think if anyone in any other industry was burnt out, we would
Yeah.
celebrate them for leaving. And for actors, we make it like oh, well, you just didn't try hard enough. I don't think that's fair.
Mm,
So I told everyone, I was like, look, I can't do this anymore if I don't book by my birthday. Like, I need to make some money. I need to like get my life in order. I need to feel like a person again because this is
mm,
like truly draining me. And at that point, someone kind of reached out to me and was like, hey, have you auditioned for this role? Because they're on like, I think at the time it was like the third or fourth breakdown for the role. They were like,
wow.
they seem to really be struggling with it. And you're a perfect fit for this character. Have you
Mm,
auditioned? And I looked at the specs and she like, the character sounded so similar to me, but also the second I read the specs, I knew exactly who the character was. So I reached out to my agent and I was like, hey, wondering if you'd seen this role. And I'm not going to name names here. I'm with a new agent now, but my agent at the time was like, yeah, I saw it. I'm not going to submit you though, because you're not the right age. And the character was at that point, the breakdown was for someone in their mid 30s to mid 40s. And I was like
okay.
27 at the time. So fair
Hmm.
enough. But
Yeah.
when I saw the audition sides, in the sides, it became very clear that the character was 30. So
Ah,
I kept pressing my agent. I kept bugging them. And I was like, hey, like, I disagree with you on this one. Can we just
yeah. Push
ask?
for it. Yeah. Just ask
Just
to
reach out to
submit.
Cassie and
Yeah.
ask. And
Yeah.
he was kind of like, okay, well, I'll look at the previous breakdowns. And if there are any that go to 30, then I'll ask. And he found like the very first breakdown was like 30 to 40. So he reached out to the casting director, who I had auditioned for a lot and but been put on hold for a lot. And he reached out to them. He was like, hey, is it okay if I submit Watson? I know that you've like submissions are closed for this. And they were like, we would love to see Watson. So I got
Wow.
a little bit of an extension on it.
Wow.
Filmed my audition, sent it in. I did two versions of the audition, one with because it's a historic character, and like I didn't know within the show it was a new time period. So
Hmm.
I binged the entire first season the night before my audition because I think I had like three
Wow.
days to do it. Um,
Damn.
I wanted to like pick up some cues about the style of the show, and because this was a new era, I didn't know what they were going to want in terms of voice. So
Hmm.
I did two versions of the audition. Didn't hear anything
Nice.
for a week. Found out I got a chemistry read that weekend. The night of my chemistry read, I was supposed to be staying over at a friend's house to the next morning, leave to go to my best friend's bachelorette party in Montreal. And my
Wow.
chemistry read was a Thursday night. So I went out to the studio in Scarborough, did the chemistry read, took an Uber to my friend's house. And then my agent called me and he was like, they were supposed to make a decision tonight. They're not going to know till tomorrow. If you get it, though, you have to be in the city. So the next morning,
Oh.
everyone got up and they all drove to Montreal. And I got up and I got in an Uber and I went home. And luckily, I found out at like 9:30 in the morning that I booked it.
Wow.
Um, yeah, but that was what I mean though, of like the entire year I'd been canceling plans and like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And you had
paid
to
to go on
do
a
one
bachelorette
last
party.
one. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You.
And that was the thing I
You.
told him.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, look, dude, like I will cancel this bachelorette party, but like if
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
book this one, I don't know what I'm gonna do at this point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thank God I booked it. But the beautiful irony of it was I mean, look, the people that run that show are so beautiful and gracious and such genuine and kind and wonderful and warm people, and they very much assured me that, like, the second they saw my tape, they knew it was me because they were just looking for the essence of the character, and I so, so appreciate that, but I also so deeply appreciate the care with which they wrote the character. Um, it was a really wonderful experience being on that show. Having first of all, it was the first experience I'd had in film and TV where I had a character who actually had an arc. Like, you can do the work to give your character an arc, but, like, this was the first time the arc was going to be shown on screen. That
Yeah.
was really fun. It was my first time working on a project where, The Way Home is a mystery series, so they don't want the actors to know the twists ahead of time, so we don't
Mm.
get the sides or we don't get the scripts until we do, like, the table
Wow.
read for each episode.
Oh,
So
cool.
I went in, I think the first block, I was in one of the episodes and I had like 3 lines in it, and I remember that day, it was like, "Ooh, I have to know who my character is based off these 3 lines."
Mm,
But that was a fear that I had that turned out to be unfounded because, people are always discovering new things about themselves. It's okay to not have all the answers as an actor when you go in. You just have to make sure that you're being flexible enough and, like, the choices that you're making are grounded in some sort of reality for the character so that you're able to pivot or justify choices that, like, come to light later. So it was also a fantastic learning experience, but that show, that season actually wrapped on my birthday. So the day that I told everyone,
whoa.
like, this will be the day
That's the
that
universe winking at you right there.
yeah, and it was I was, like, the last scene on set that day, so everyone sang me happy birthday, which was really nice, and we wrapped just
Wow.
after midnight, and it was great, and then I was very honored to be brought back for season 3. I'm very excited for fans to see what's in store for season 4. I don't know most of like, I know
Ooh,
what's
yeah, yeah,
happening in
yeah.
season 4, but I
Yeah, yeah,
haven't
yeah.
read most of it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's, that show has been a really wonderful experience, and even getting to work with people, like Kyler Lee is one of the most amazing people to work with. She's so gracious, the tone that she sets on set, like, she's such an incredible person, to learn from, to share the screen with, just to chat with. She's been so supportive through everything. Like, she's a wonderful,
Hmm.
wonderful person. And getting to work with someone like her who has the care and attention to detail and the desire to make set a welcoming place for everyone,
Mm,
that was also a really fantastic addition to that already wonderful learning environment. It was kinda like the triple whammy of, like, I was in such a low place and I was feeling so lost and not unappreciated, but unseen, and then my first kind of big opportunity was one where I felt so seen and so appreciated and so
mm,
valued, and it was just such a warm environment. It was like, "Oh, okay, cool. So
mm.
this is what winning the lottery feels like. Amazing." Yeah, and it was also, I mean, it was also pretty mind-blowing to book something like that in the strike.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then for it to continue and to get more than 1 season
Mhm.
and this kind of a, scale of a show, period piece, a magic, and then that people love it, that there's a fan base, that it's received well, yeah, that you get the chance to keep bringing more arc to this character. Yeah, tell me what's like the lessons you got from it, and what are you excited for the next season and for the next, year. You were filming or recording this, in 2025 on the eve of 2026. Tell me about what you've learned from this last year with those experiences and what you're excited for in the following year.
Yeah, I mean, through the show, I think the biggest lesson that I learned is that it's okay not to have all the answers. That was I know I am a perfectionist. I was about to say I'm not a perfectionist, and I that's a lie. I'm such a perfectionist. I am.
Uh-huh.
But I've never been a perfectionist when it comes to performance because, again, like, most of my training's theater, and theater is ephemeral. You do it and then it's gone. You just
Mhm.
gotta do it every night, and things are gonna change every night, and that's the beauty of theater, and that's why it's magic. But, I had this worry coming into film and TV of, like, if I'm not prepared, everyone's gonna know. If I'm
Mm.
not 100% on it all the time, if I don't have all the answers, then it's because I didn't do the work. And I very much went into the way home with this almost obsessive need to figure out the mysteries of the show so that,
Mm.
I knew what my story was. But through filming season 2, which was my first season, like, I learned that it's sometimes better to not have all the answers and to let those discoveries happen because that's what we do in theater, right? The discoveries happen in the moment, even if you already know what the discovery is. There can still be a new discovery based off, like, oh, someone turns at a different point on the stage or someone does something that takes you off guard. In film, because of the inherent repetition of it, right? It can feel easy to lose that impulsivity to it. But I found that
Mm.
embracing the things that my character didn't know, including about herself, allowed me to reconnect with that impulsivity.
Mm.
Um, which was kind of exciting, and I mean, it's also a lot of fun playing a character with a lot of secrets. And for a long
Mm.
time, like, I didn't like to publicly talk about my character's secrets because they were quite deliberate in the show to never voice what those secrets were, because she didn't have
Mhm.
the language for it. But now that the show is ending because it was very sadly canceled after season 4, which is a shame,
Yeah, my gosh.
but now that I know that certain parts of my character's plot won't be explored publicly for people, like, it's a little bit more fun for me to talk about her with people because now it does feel like
Mm.
she's become the property of the fans that really connected with her because
Yeah.
they can now do what they want with her story.
Cool.
In terms of, like, what I'm looking forward to 2026, 2025, like, in my personal life, I will be so honest, was just I'll be fully melodramatic here. Like, it was
Let's
just a
do it.
travesty. I did not have a good year personally, mentally. This girl, she was not happy. She
Oh.
was in a constant state of existential dread for so many reasons and not just
Mm.
political ones.
Mm.
Um, and then there was like this year, I had some of the most incredible 2025, I had some of the most incredible opportunities of my entire life, and what was so interesting about those opportunities is a lot of them did not come to me through the traditional means of how the industry works.
Ah.
So this year I had some roles that were direct offers.
Heyo.
I had some roles that were not direct offers, but, like, I kinda didn't get called in for, and just certain people made sure that I was still considered, which was
Wow.
this was kind of the year that I was like, "Oh, I feel seen and people are starting to get it." And the
Mm.
people that I'm so inspired by maybe are also inspired by me, and that's really, really exciting and really beautiful that I have these people that I now consider collaborators,
Mm.
and in the sense that I may not be making the story with them, but when they bring me into the story, they allow me to have my own voice.
Mm.
And yeah, one of the last movie that I did this year in particular, like the writer director that who you also know, Ron Murphy. We actually met Ron on the same set.
Mm.
Um, Ron, yeah, we met him on Life with Luca. Crazy.
Whoa!
Um,
So cool.
I have so much love and respect for Ron and like working with him this year. I again have never felt so deeply understood by a director in the film space, at least. It kind of brought me back to that thing in theater where, obviously on a lot of film sets, you don't get the time to really collaborate. Like as a film and TV actor, you have to come with your work done. There isn't that
Mhm.
time necessarily to try things out. And luckily, I had had enough FaceTime with Ron about the role and we talked about it enough that I kind of had that. But that was the first time that I came to set and worked with a director who was just so excited to see what I wanted to try
Wow.
because he trusted me so fully with the character. And I so deeply appreciate that. It was a really wonderful, incredible experience for a lot of reasons. But yeah, that was the moment where it was like, that's the moment that makes me feel like I've made it. Because for
Uh,
me, the making it is that
wow.
having a voice on the set, being able to bring something to my character, and knowing that the reason I was trusted with that role isn't because I'm better than other people, isn't because I'm cooler than anyone else, or because 'cause I'm friends with it's because I made choices that were interesting, and I developed a character, and
Mm,
she was real in that. Like, that's what I love about storytelling, and it was
mm.
really cool to have an experience where people saw that
Wow.
and wanted that.
Wow. Wow. It's just to synthesize, it sounds like making it is in the making of it. You know what I mean?
100%. Yes, it's process over product. The making it is in the making of it, quite literally, and yeah, I
Mm.
mean, I think it's so, I've worked with so many amazing directors, but a lot of the time there is a, like, we've gotta make our day, which you do have to make your day. Take that very
Yeah.
seriously.
Yep.
Time is money,
Yeah.
etcetera. Okay, make your day, please be prepared. But, like, there it doesn't always feel like there's a ton of creativity that is allowed to come into film
Mhm.
from performers,
Mhm.
and, being in a film that just felt so, like, nauseatingly creative was the
Mm.
best. It was so good.
Wow.
It was such an incredible experience.
Wow. Okay, shout out that title for your fans so that they know which movie that they're going to see soon.
That is
What's it
called
called?
Back in Black,
Okay.
and it is hopefully gonna be out sometime in 2026. I actually don't know. I have no idea what
Right.
the plans for it are,
Right.
but, yeah, it's gonna be a pretty sweet little film, little dark comedy number starring Christopher Walken and Jane Curtin, which
Whoa.
is pretty sweet, and then Disc Gal's in it.
Hey, Watson
Hey,
Rose. Hey.
hey,
Hey.
yeah.
So before we close here, you've given so much of your time and so much of your wisdom and so much of a beautiful sort of um, film of your life, and I really deeply appreciate that. Before we go, what are the things that here today you want to sort of plant the seed to see it grow in 2026 for yourself? And then I will have one follow up question after that. But yeah, tell me about what you'd like to plant.
The
You're a
seed I
plant
wanna
girl,
plant
so yeah.
Yeah, the seed I wanna plant for myself is, being more creative within the process for self-tapes, not in terms of, like, the framing or the way that they're filmed or whatnot, but I think this past couple of years in particular, I started falling a little bit into the trap of trying to deliver what I felt was being looked for, as
Mm,
opposed to what I was seeing in the character, and, this year was a pretty good reflection of, like, the times where I followed my instincts and followed my guts and done the work and, like, committed to certain ideas. That's when the work has not only felt the most fulfilling, but felt not necessarily the easiest, but the most organic. So that is something I really want to continue, I guess, watering that garden in 2026 more than anything, because it was a discovery I made towards the end of the year, right as auditions were like petering out, of course. So yeah, going into 2026, I want to rediscover like the playfulness and just the moments within auditions and self tapes.
any seeds you want to plant in the personal life to balance all the flourishing in the garden of acting?
Yeah, I need to I think I need to continue being discerning, but also give people a little bit more of a chance and know
Mm,
that, different types of relationships are available and possible. I feel like parts of me the past couple years have started seeing things as very black or white. It's like either you're my friend or you're not, and there's always the reminder of, like, you can have friends in different capacities, that's okay. You can have acquaintances in different capacities. You don't have to devote your time to everyone, and you are allowed to say no with your energy at certain times, but there's also nothing wrong with expanding that circle beyond only the people you can devote time to.
mm, mhm, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good seed. Nice,
Yeah.
nice,
What are
nice.
yours?
Oh, my
I wanna know.
mine is to believe in myself a bit more too. Continue nourishing that seed of you're enough. So deeply relate to that journey. Health, Yeah, nourishing the garden of the important relationships in my life. The little flowers of like dreaming big too, allow them to flourish too. And also to be of service and to connect more. That's kind of what this podcast is about. It's like reaching out to people, asking for help when necessary. Like even with this, like reaching out, be like, hey, you want to hop on this thing? Pretty
Yeah,
much
that's a hard
everybody that
one.
yeah, I know. I don't have a thing to show. Like some people are like, okay, well, send me an episode. I was like, I don't know how, I didn't even have one. Like, and now all of a sudden I have some. So it's exciting to see. It's exciting to be a part of. But I think, yeah, just continuing figuring out how I can be of service to other people, whether it be through storytelling, acting, coaching, helping, being more present in your life. And like you said, sort of finding a way to, yeah, just, yeah, keep. I think it comes back to that first one of the I am enough kind of thing, really
Mhm.
making sure that that plant is really healthy because it affects them all, and I think it's also got to do the unweeding, to be very honest. I think that's what I need to do too, is go in my garden and see where the weeds are. Really
Yeah.
actually like deeply do the self-reflecting of like, why is this pattern happened again? Or why does this show up here? And like you said too, although it's been an abundant year, there's certain weeds that I need to find because I'm like, why am I not getting exactly what I think I want? Or is it that I'm getting exactly what I want and need? It's just that I don't have the objectivity to realize I'm already getting everything I really, really need and my soul and my heart want here and now. So I'm also like learning how to do the yin and yang of like being, invested but like unattached to the result. Like again, focus on the
Mhm.
process. Like the making it is in the making of it. I think that's the title of this episode.
Yay! Oh my goodness. I love it. Well, also, like, look, I bake sourdough, and I can tell you right now, if the process of making the sourdough doesn't go well, you're not gonna end up with good sourdough. So,
Wow. There you go.
literally, the making of it
Sourdough
is in the making
is
of it.
life. Yeah,
Sourdough
exactly.
sourdough and it's gut healthy.
There you go. I love sourdough bread. If it's the ultimate. So I'm glad that it's
It really
healthy
is.
because I thought it was, but I didn't have any research. But if you've made it, I trust you.
Someone
Um,
told me
s-
once that it's gut healthy, and I have looked no further into it because my curiosity for sourdough ends there. It's delicious. I
yeah,
don't need to know more.
yeah,
I'm good.
that's good. I'm stuck with that.
I
That's a good
understand the
belief.
process of fermentation. I've read the book. I get it, but like I don't need to know why it's healthy. It just is in my brain. And if it's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
go fuck yourself. It is now.
On that note, thank you so much, Watson. That has been an awesome interview. I've enjoyed this time just limitlessly. Thank you so much. Before we go, where can people follow your journey? Like anybody who's listening or watching this, like where can they go see your work? Where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media. I'm just at Instagram at my dear Watson R. So my dear Watson and then the little letter R. Um, check out my IMDb page to see what's going on. I've got a couple projects that have just come out or are coming out next year. So I was in an episode of the NBC show Brilliant Minds earlier this year alongside Jane Krakowski, which was really fun. So feel free to check out that episode. It's episode 4, Lady Liberty. I have a film coming out, hopefully again in 2026, that's inspired by the true story of Paralympic Canadian rower Victoria Nolan. I had the honor of playing Victoria, and that should be out sometime in 2026. We just had the final pickup day for that last week. Back in Black should be out sometime in festivals or theaters, hopefully next year. And season 4 of The Way Home is premiering, I believe, in March. If you're in the States, feel free to watch that on the Hallmark channel. If you're in Canada, you can access previous seasons. Also in the States, they have the first 2 seasons on Netflix. Season 3 comes out in the new year on Netflix. In Canada, you can watch it through Stack TV on Amazon Prime.
Thank you so much, Watson.
Thank
And that was
you.
so concise and precise. So thank you for that. Thank you so much again. If you are listening to this or watching this, please leave us a review that's helpful. Leave a comment below or a question, and Watson and I will do our absolute best to answer all of your questions and continue the conversation. You are not alone in having questions and having doubts and having feelings and having ups and downs in your life. And these interviews are all about that, for us to feel more together, for us hopefully to pull some sort of inspiration off of this. But I'm super inspired from this conversation. So thank you for this like Christmas present of a conversation. And I
For
feel
sure.
very excited for the new year. It feels very, very just amazing that we were able to have this chat. I really appreciate this
Mhm.
catch up and this dive deep into your career and your life. And I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. We're gonna bring some positive energy to the start of 2026.
I think so too. Thank you so much, Watson. And here we go. And scene. And that's the end of the. That's how I end.